everybody. Welcome to our channel. I'm Kiana.
And my name is Speros. Today, we're going to cover the core fundamentals of becoming a leader. Now, through our research and experience, we've distilled down the fundamentals to what we believe to be the 7 main topics that you should know getting into leadership. So, with that, let's get started and start off with the very first one. Kiana?
Yeah, let's talk about the core piece of being a leader, which is purpose. When you are thinking about, I want to be a leader in the industry, or I want to climb that ladder, or whatever that vision of yours may be, it all comes down to your purpose. What does a leader mean to you? What is leadership to you? Do you know yourself well enough to be able to say that, hey, I want to go in and be a leader that is going to be able to help empower or enable others and help grow others? Or do you want to go into the leadership journey and for the purpose of hierarchy? Well, maybe it's financial gains, or maybe it's having the title as well. I mean, there is no right or wrong reason on why you want to be a leader, but you do need to know and have a clear understanding and a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we've talked a lot about how the purpose should be authentic. You should be honest with yourself about why you're getting into this. The other piece of it is a growth mindset that you have to just know and expect that you're not going to be the best coming out of college or coming out of training, being a leader. So it's just an ongoing growth. This is something that you really believe in trying to improve the company, yourself, and your team. I think those are very, very important to know that it's not just about you being a leader. It's about how you can give back to your team, to your company, and of course to yourself as well to become a good leader for them and make the work environment better, reach your goals and succeed from there.
Yeah, when you become a leader and you choose this path, honestly, I feel like the higher you go, the lonelier it could get. There's a huge emotional investment. It's not all the glory of from the outside, everybody looking in of like, oh wow, look at the role, look at the title, or they're so successful, right? Success means different things for everybody, but it's very much also about making the tough decisions.
Mhm.
The decisions that is not obvious, it's not going to please everybody. You got to be able to make decisions. Sometimes that is going to handle your relationship, your foundation of your team compared to the company. And then there are times where you really have to think forward about, oh, why am I doing this? How do I feel when it comes down to being able to go down this journey? Do you have that strength to be able to kind of follow this path forward and be able to continue to climb? And when is it enough for you? Like, when is it going to be, I guess, the top for you? What is success to you? It all comes down to purpose at the end of the day, is figuring out who you are, understanding yourself, and then being able to find yourself in this journey. So,
Very good. Yeah, that ties really, really well into the second core fundamental, which is self-awareness. So something we've talked about as well is consider and be aware of your strengths going into a leadership role. It's good to kind of self-reflect and see where you stand. What are your strengths, your gaps? Do you have any biases and any blind spots? And this is something you might need to get help from your manager because sometimes it's hard to assess that. But I want to add a point, which is imposter syndrome. Mostly as a new leader, a lot of times you can really doubt yourself and your experience. You think to yourself, I'm not ready for it. But you really need to kind of put that aside and just focus on what you're there for. You're there to help lead the team to success.
yeah, as a leader, you constantly have to be self aware and being able to know your surroundings. Like you mentioned, the imposter syndrome is even for seasoned leaders. Seasoned leaders that are in new environments or new situations. We're all going to have those type of situations or scenarios where we freeze. Well, we doubt ourselves. We're going to just have those type of emotional ties when it comes down to being a leader. But always being aware of how your emotions impact the others around you. A lot of leadership is about building strong interpersonal relationships, as well as when you're making specific decisions or when you're making a judgment call, you're seeking feedback. You're reflecting off of the feedback that it has been provided, and you're able to constantly improve because it's all about having that learning mindset. Being a leader is a constant continuation of learning about yourself, learning about others, just going down that entire journey of improving yourself.
Very good. A point I'll add to it too is I'm sure you've heard of and maybe even researched leadership styles. And when you start researching it, you'll quickly find that there's 15, 24,
There's many,
30.
many, many of them.
Yeah, I don't know how many there are now, but the reality is there are about 6 core leadership styles that are most different from each other. They can use as an anchor for awareness. Now, you don't have to learn all of them, but I think it's a good idea to understand just the core leadership styles because the way you lead has certain pros and cons. And because of that, there are certain industries that different leadership styles work better than others, and even situations where different leadership styles work better from others. So you have a baseline, and from there, with your experience, you can adjust and move forward from there.
Yeah, and I think it's good to just be able to see as you go through them and read the different styles, which one you gravitate towards the most, which one do you relate to the most. You will probably use multiple throughout your entire journey. Are you going to be comfortable using others that you may not relate to? I know as a leader, am gonna have to become this
Mhm.
persona when it comes down to a situation. And can I do it?
Well said.
Right. So
Well said.
yeah.
Very good. So the next one, number 3, would be communication. Communication, of course, is to be able to communicate properly, but also just as important, it is to be able to receive communication. So one point to make here is active listening, and I'm sure you've heard about this, because what you're doing with active listening is you're not looking at your phone, you're not looking at your laptop, you're just giving the person your full undivided attention, and you're seeking to understand them. You don't want to rush your response. A lot of times, a good way to go about it is recap. You want to recap back what you've heard to validate that you heard things properly. And only then you can take that information in, assess it, and then again, without rushing, give a response back.
I want to mention that as we are listing off the core fundamentals of leadership, they're not listed in order of importance. They are
Mhm.
all important. They all have to be utilized and work together as a team. When you are communicating, your style and your adaptation of your style is going to be dependent on your audience. And that leads back to what we just talked about is the leadership styles, right? Each of your team members or your peers or your supervisors all have different personalities, and so you're going to have to understand what ways work best for them or what communication style is most effective to them when it comes down to getting your point across or being able to make sure that you guys are understanding and communicating correctly. It is also always important to share your vision and the whys. Everybody on a team and in a company want to feel like they make an impact, they have a voice, they're being seen, and they are a part of the team. If you provide context and the whys, it is to be a lot more effective for them to be able to get the job done and honestly provide space for ideas.
Very good. So number 4 is building relationships. It's really about being able to learn about each of your team members and understand them, understand what empowers them, understand what drains them. So when you do have discussions with them, you know where they're coming from. You know why they're there, and you know how you can adjust your communication style to make sure that they get things done the way you expect, but just a little more favorable as to what works best for them, what relates best for them when you talk with them.
Yeah, when you understand each individual as individuals, it gives you the best opportunity to be able to create a plan where you're able to help them grow. You're able to work with them, and maybe you are developing leaders within leaders as well. Some of I feel like the most common factor on being a new leader is we often get stuck in our own mindset that we need to do everything on our own. But you are leading by example and you have a team. And usually being able to enable others to help you or to delegate is not necessarily a weakness. It's showing your team that you're trusting them. And by giving your team opportunities to deliver, you are also being able to support their growth and be able to understand them more on what is the best way and best style they work. Where are potentially their weaknesses that you as a leader are able to start working on coaching or training them?
Well said. Well said. All right. So number 5 is expectations and training. Expectations and training really start with you as a leader, understanding them and knowing them very well yourself, and really understanding what are the goals of the company And how do those goals relate to our goals in our team and our metrics? Then how does that get put into effect based off all the processes and procedures and SOPs that we have in place to support the metrics and reach the goals? So one is learning them yourself very well and how they relate. Two is training your team on them. And the third one is validating that your team understood them.
Yeah. Even backing up a little bit of expectations is again, this ties all the way from the beginning of your purpose, your mission, why you want to be a leader as well. Is when you are learning about, like Spill said, the company's missions and goals, you first have to think about what is your mission and goal as a leader. Does it actually align with the company or role you're in? So a lot of the expectations is coming about yourself too. Oftentimes we hear people say that I didn't like being a leader or I didn't like this role. Or maybe I'm not fit to be a leader, things like that.
Mhm.
And I think oftentimes is the misconception of being a leader in the wrong company or being a leader in the wrong role or leading the wrong team or using the wrong leadership style is going to be what causes that I don't like mindset, versus understanding yourself and having the right expectations of you as a leader, that aligns with the company's expectations. So you want to always set and validate your expectations. Be very clear. Always ask at the end when you are setting the expectation of is it reasonable, and seek that feedback and be able to work with each individuals differently. Always follow up and check in and see if they need help, or if they don't meet your expectation, find out the whys and continue to be able to work and improve them.
Very good. So number six is recognition. So this goes in hand with expectation training. Once that training expectations is set, you want to consider how you recognize people for their improvements, praising how they're going above and beyond expectations. And the praise should be fairly proportionate, right? A lot of times, small wins and small praises go a long way, sometimes even longer than the large wins and large praises because they're just kind of more consistent. But you should always seek to find who's doing great where, who's going above and beyond where, and give that positive reinforcement. Because just as important, we'll talk about here soon, accountability piece, it's going to be the opposite. So you can't just have an accountability where anytime somebody goes underperforms, you call them on it and you try to fix it. That's fine. You should do that. But just as important it is so that if somebody goes above and beyond expectations, you address that and you thank them and you do a great job. And that goes back to also, we talked earlier about how you should know your employees. Some employees like praises in an open team setting. Some employees don't like that. So that goes back to know your team and consider the proportionate approach of how you give them praises based off of that.
Yeah. It goes back to the Levi example as well. Your team wants to know that you see them. You see them, you hear them, and the voices matter. There's the whole saying of people follow leaders, not company. Everybody wants to work with and follow a leader that they can trust, that's authentic, that has integrity, and that's able to be like part of a team. But at the same time, your job as a leader to be able to change out your hats. Recognition comes down to creating opportunities where your team is able to shine. Individuals on your team is able to showcase their achievements or their skill sets. And that's where you're able to also know who could potentially be the next leader as well. Your whole goal when it comes to being a leader is to grow more leaders and being able to also stay humble and understand you don't always have the right answers or the best ideas to create that environment where they are able to really showcase their voice is going to be important. But at the same time, you want to also show fairness as well. You want to be able to make sure everything is unbiased and everything is also being recognized that when it's time, somebody makes mistakes, responsibility or accountabilities are held.
Very good. Yeah, yeah. I want to highlight that with the accountability. I have seen this unfortunately far too many times where accountability is done in the open. And generally speaking, there's very few situations, if any, where you should hold somebody accountable in an open setting where their peers see it. Because typically that accountability is addressed to one person. Maybe it's a small act that they did that you need to make a correction on. Maybe it's a very big violation that you need to take very seriously, which HR and so on. Regardless how where in the spectrum that situation is, you always show respect. You always are professional. You always are consistent in the way you are approaching these situations, but the setting is so important. Being behind quote unquote closed doors in a sense with you and that person, perhaps an HR representative, depending on the severity. Um, but you need to give that respect to that person and give them that opportunity to improve. And once that situation has been addressed and you give them that feedback and they've validated and confirmed they will move forward and they will fix their attitude, from there on forward, they're back to that employee that is doing a great job everywhere else.
I would say that there are a couple scenarios when it comes down to accountability that could be addressed in a team setting.
Mhm.
And I would say the couple ones comes down to one. Basically, your goal is you want to set an example and enforce example amongst the entire team. So the best way I can show this is, for example, if one of your employees did something wrong, you can potentially bring out a scenario with adjustment in a team setting that does not call out the individual. So the entire team is aware and know that moving forward, if I was to ever do this, that is not going to be okay. Or we are watching the performance this way, well, we are measuring the performance this way. So that way everybody's aware of what's the right thing to do, what's not the right thing to do. So it eliminates the guessing game, right? And you're not necessarily calling out individual. Now, I can tell you that individual for sure will know themselves that if they're the one that have done it, and they will feel bad about themselves, but nobody else in the room will know that that example came from them. And then you're able to have one-on-one discussions from there. I would say that would be one of the only scenarios where you can address to the entire team of accountability, but it's really going to be more of a scenario play. The second opportunity to be able to address accountability as a team is if you want to set an example on yourself and you as a leader wants to hold yourself accountable for doing something wrong or making a mistake. Honestly, we're humans. We have bad days. Maybe you felt like your tone or attitude came off wrong the other day and you want to be able to set example. I would say that would be the only other time is that you are holding yourself accountable, and it shows to your team that they don't need to be afraid to make mistakes as long as they take responsibility and they don't repeat it. It's a great example to be able to tell them that, hey, I'm part of you guys. I made mistakes too. And we're going to work together as a team and continue moving forward. That just because I'm a leader doesn't mean I can't improve. Doesn't mean I can't, continue to grow myself. Right. So
Very good point. Yeah, those are very good examples. And I'll just say, like, as a reminder, perhaps as a leader, you're not expected to be perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. So fantastic. So those are the seven. Just to kind of recap, we have the purpose, self awareness, communication skills, building relationships, expectations and training, recognition, accountability. There are a lot more things we can get into when we talk about leadership. But when you think about what are the core pieces as a new leader or even just a seasoned leader that I should really be self reflecting on, we think that these seven are very good examples of what we should reflect on, regardless where you are in your leadership journey. So, one last piece we'd like to add on here before we close out is remember that becoming a leader, no matter if you're new or very seasoned, it's a lifelong journey, and you have to be aware and consider yourself a lifelong learner because every experience you have in leadership molds you and improves you. All right, very good. Thank you very much. And with that, let us know in the comments what you thought about these leadership core fundamentals. Let us know if there's any particular one that you like the most or you want to just kind of highlight. Or let us know if there's any core leadership fundamental that you feel like we left out that we should really have included in this list. We'd love to hear your opinions. And with that, thank you so much. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.
I